We're beginning today in a pose called Supta Baddha Konasana. So Supta, supine, lying down. Baddha Konasana is these butterfly legs. Your soles of the feet are together and the knees are open wide. Take a moment here, wrap your shoulder blades under. Arms can be as wide as is comfortable. It might be nice to place one hand on your heart and one on your stomach. If you feel any tightness or tension in the groins from this shape, you can always put blocks under your outer thighs to support them. Let your eyes close. Allow your body to breathe for itself. Not trying to do anything special, just noticing. Noticing where you experience the rise and fall of the breath. And then getting out of the way, allowing the body to breathe itself so that you become an interested observer. Notice now if you, in your mind's eye, trace down underneath each hand, moving down into the backspace, into the mat. For most of us, it's less prominent, but there is still some movement of the breath. So start to cultivate that grounding, that opening through the backspace. And if you observe any place that feels especially held or tight, give it a little extra attention, but don't feel like you have to change anything. Instead, just put your focus there and continue to breathe normally. Be curious about that tension and just stay with it. Oftentimes, just this act can allow something to let go. But the goal, the intention, is not the release, rather the awareness. And now, as we move out of this opening moment, start to cultivate a deeper, more expansive expression of this same breath. Taking what you learned and giving it a bit more life, a bit more openness. Together, we take a deep inhale through the nose, pause at the top, and exhale through the mouth. Inhale, create openness, space, and grounding. Exhale, release it. One last big inhale, and an even bigger exhale. Plant your feet so that they're flat on the mat, about as wide as your hips. Ground down through the four corners of the feet, maybe lift the toes and set them down one at a time. And then take your arms long beside you. Heels and fingertips are within brushing distance. And slowly, very slowly, start to curl the pubic bone towards the heart. Feeling each and every vertebra, one at a time. You're not obligated to move with a single inhale. Instead, let the breath be easy as you articulate your spine. And then when you arrive at the top in your bridge pose, just pause for a moment and then rewind that clock. Go down the way you came. Take your time. And if you notice a sticky spot, you can sort of rewind a little bit. Lift and lower. I've had different people tell me different things, that if they engage the glutes, it feels better on their back, or if they relax the glutes, it feels better on their back. So find out which one is true of you. We'll take one more round, wherever you are. It's okay if you're moving with me. It's okay, and maybe even better, if you're moving on your own, following your own skeleton. As always, you're never obligated to any shape. You are deeply obligated to your breath and to curiosity about your own skeleton, finding out its range of motion, your own muscles' range of flexibility. Once you arrive with your low back on the mat, bring the knees in towards the chest and just make little circles. Make them slow and see if you can really find each hip as you go around. So the parts of the low back that flank the spine, right at the top of the pelvis, and then go the other way a couple of rounds. Really see if as you come around you can press down into the mat with the muscles of the low back. And then keep them anchored until they need to come up because of the travel of your knees. And finish the round you're on. Bring your right knee into your right armpit and release your left leg long on the mat. You can have the foot long, or you can plant the knee if that feels better to you. Or plant the foot rather, and bend the knee. Either way, the right knee comes into the armpit. Make little circles with your ankles if you'd like. And then really actively take your attention into the right glute and the hamstring. Focusing on the breath as always, and on your experience of the breath in that hip structure. All of the intercostals, all the muscles that support our breathing anchor into the pelvic floor, which means we can find a breath that has that anchor. One more inhale. This time as you exhale, take a supine twist. So guide that right shin across your body. The right arm can go out to the right, and pay attention to both shoulder blades, especially the right shoulder blade. Let it soften down on the mat. If it is not on the mat, if it's peeling up, then back off of the stretch, or the twist rather. So the knee doesn't have to travel all that far. It's not about that. Feel the left shoulder blade wrapping under. So we're looking for the ribs, the heart in particular, to be perpendicular, pointing straight up to the ceiling. And then the hips just go as far as they can, while honoring that rib structure. A big, nice, expansive inhale. And a deep exhale, maybe something releases a bit. And then come back into center. Bend the left knee, if it's not already, and cross the right ankle over the left knee. For now, keep the left foot on the floor. Really ground down through that left foot and place your hands, left hand on the left thigh, right at the left hip crease, and the right hand on the right inner thigh. Now use those to push gently away, and notice if that helps the low back to ground down a bit more, lengthening out that lumbar spine. And then breathe into that space again around the top of the pelvic bone, the middle low back. Wherever you feel it most strongly is the right answer. And then on your next inhale, we'll thread the needle. So interlace the fingers now around the left hamstring. Make a choice about your feet, flexed or pointed. And as you guide that left thigh in, use your strong arms to pull the femur down into the hip socket. So you don't have to peel the low back off the mat here. You can, it's okay if it comes off, but that's not really the point. The point is opening that right IT band, the abductor, the outer thigh. Big inhale. And exhale, let it go. Plant both feet about as wide as the mat, a little windshield wiper of the knees, left to right. And then we'll do all of that on the other side. So start by hugging both knees in, I think is a good place to start. And then keep the left knee towards the left armpit and send the right leg long, or if it's better for you, keep the foot planted on the mat. Actively guiding that left knee in. Notice where you experience the breath. Make the feet active once again. The mat is a nice bit of feedback for that breath. Something external, like a hand placed in that space. So use it. One more inhale. And then let's take our twist. So guiding that left shin across the body, make note of the shoulder blades and see if you can even out the pressure on those shoulder blades. So it's natural that there will be more weight in the right one. Let's see if you can even that out. I might find a little extra pelvic floor lift. It might give more space. Maybe look over to the left. Again, focus more on the connection of the ribs and of the heart pointing straight up. And then the knee will adjust from there, however deep it can go or not. Inhaling. Exhaling. Inhale, coming back to center. Plant the right foot on the mat, cross the left ankle at the right knee into a figure four. And again, the right palm now comes to the right hip crease. Left palm is right on the left inner thigh. So this will not be a big stretch in the legs. It's meant to open the low back a little bit, lengthen that lower back spine, as well as give a little bit of core engagement. That just sort of happens. A couple of breaths here. And then on the next inhale, interlace fingers around the right hamstring, threading that needle. Again, you're not obligated to pull in very far at all, but use that left elbow to guide the left hip out as you draw the right leg closer. Make a choice about your feet, flexed or pointed, and then use the arms to pull the right femur down, plug it into that socket. When I did that, I just felt a much deeper opening on the opposite side, on the left side, which is the point of this stretch. One more inhale. Let it go on the exhale. Plant both feet, windshield wiper the knees left to right. Take your arms long beside you now and float the feet so the shins are parallel to the mat, so you're in a tabletop position. And do your best to get the knees over the hips. They don't have to be perfectly stacked, but that's sort of the idea. And then from here, reach your fingertips forward, but lift the shoulder blades off the mat. Let the chin be touched just a little bit in towards the clavicle. So there's a deep core engagement, but you should feel that low back anchored as you scoop out the core. Feel the belly button pulling you down. Inhale. Exhale, hold. And inhale, lower down. You can hug the knees in again if you'd like. So one way to balance out low back stuff is to focus a little more on the core, on the abdominals. So that's what this is for. Again, taking the knees into tabletop. Reaching the fingertips forward. Lift the shoulder blades off the mat as though someone were holding them and lifting them for you. A little gentle tuck of the chin, so you're looking out maybe beyond your toes. Find a drizdi, a gaze. One more inhale. Exhale, let it go. Good, we're gonna do one more like that. So take your little reset. Knees stacked over hips, feet nice and active, fingertips reaching forward and then start to lift up, pressing the low back down really actively. So it's not easy, it's not meant to be easy, but if you find that pressing down, you might feel even a sense that your low back is spreading across the mat, opening up. So breathe into that space. And then let it go. Good. We have one more thing in this position, but it will be less crunchy, so maybe that's good news. Again, the knees come to tabletop. This time, essentially we're doing cat and cow on the back. So press your palms towards the ceiling, so the wrists are over the shoulders in the same way that the knees are over the hips. And this time, peel the low back off the mat first, so the knees are curling in towards the chest, and then press the palms up. So it's still some core action going on, but you should feel the middle back on the mat now. Breathe into that space. Send breath into the shoulder blades. And then exhale, lower down. Plant the feet on the floor. And let's take a bridge pose to counter that. So send the hips up as you inhale. Lower down as you exhale. Setting up for round 2, yoga likes 3s. So tabletop the legs, palms as though they're pressing on the ceiling. Start by curling the knees in towards the chest, and then lift the heart. Breathe into the space between your shoulder blades and in those low ribs. Big inhale. Exhale, set all of that down on the floor. Inhale, come up into your bridge pose. Exhale, lower back down. Third and final. Stack the knees. Flex the palms upward. Roll the knees in. Press the palms up. 2 rounds of breath. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale, let it go. Final bridge pose for now. Pressing down through the feet, curl the spine off the mat. Finding your moment of a back bend and lowering back down. Just press down through the left foot and roll onto your right side, making your way to a seat and then to all fours. So take a second. Find your cat and cow here. What feels different? Anything? Be curious about what's going on in the back. Maybe you linger in your cat back for a little bit, and then maybe you pull through and linger in your cow back a little bit. I find myself rocking left and right. Seems like that's what my body wanted to do. Now, come back into your neutral tabletop. The 10 fingers are spread wide. Find a little grip of the mat with those 10 fingers. And bring one hand, maybe your right hand, right onto your low ribs, right at the diaphragm space, and then come into your cat spine. So tuck the chin, tuck the tailbone, and feel what those low ribs knitting together feels like, that sort of corseting feeling that's happening here. And then keep your hand on that space, but re-lengthen the back, still keeping the low ribs knit together though. So things sometimes want to kind of dump out here. And if you feel that pulling together, it'll support everything we're about to do. Plant the right hand down on the mat again. And then step back into your high plank, top of a push-up. So keep those low ribs spiraling inward, which means there's a little bit of information you borrowed from your cat pose in your plank. That sense of knitting together also will serve you well in arm balances, things like crow pose or any of the fancy stuff, handstands, but it also serves you really well walking around on the planet. One more inhale, then exhale, downward facing dog. I would encourage in this first down dog, especially if you're working with any low back stuff, to separate the feet a little bit wider and step them about half a step in. So shortening the down dog just a little bit. And then take the feet nice and wide and bend the knees. So that you're really pulling the chest back towards the thighs. And there's a bit of a back bend happening here. Now find that sense of the low ribs knitting together that you had. And then maybe lengthen the legs by lifting the kneecaps towards their hip creases. Now notice if any tension crept into the neck. Some did in mine. That's why I'm saying it. So shake that out. Inhaling and exhaling. On your next inhale, roll yourself forward to your plank. You might have to adjust your feet if you shortened before. And then lower your knees. They'll land south of your hips, so you're in a modified plank. And then bring the heart right in front of the thumbs. And the chin will fall in front of that. Knees, chest, and chin. Elbows hugging in. Really stay here for a moment and really activate this pose by finding that reaching back of the tailbone and that grounding down of the knees and the chest. Inhaling. Exhale, release the belly down, and then inhale to your cobra pose and stay. This cobra pose, let's take our fingertips off the mat, elbows pointing up, and then let your cobra snake a little bit. Feel the grounding down of the low belly and of the big toes. Press your toes down. Press the low belly down, and then that might give you more space to lift the heart, extending out of that pelvic floor. Now, can you also knit those low ribs together? Maybe engage your glutes and your quads a little bit. Inhaling. Exhale, lowering down. Plant the palms beside the low ribs, elbows point high to sky. Let's just come up to our modified plank, so keeping the knees on the mat, just press up into our shorter plank. And then step the right foot outside the right hand. So you're in an expression of lizard here. Pay attention to your feet, the four corners of the right foot, and the top of the left foot. And now press down through the top of the left foot a little more so that you can just briefly hover the left knee, and then set it down, but keep the leg feeling that active. If it feels good, you can bring the right hand to the right thigh. And if your feet have stayed that active, then the hips are nice and square, and you're spiraling through the rib space. The low back was not really made to twist, but we tend to make it twist. But that's not its role. The space around the ribs is the twisty part. Inhale. Exhale, set the right hand down. Go ahead and step that left knee back, tuck the toes, downward facing dog. Now notice if your down dog feels different. Notice if your right side feels different. You can look at your feet. Maybe they look different from one another. That sometimes happens. And then on your next inhale, back to your plank. Exhale, lower the knees, chest and chin. Inhale to your cobra pose. And exhale, just come back to that modified plank. Then step the left foot outside the left hand. I'm taking a few breaths here to find all the boxes. So press down through the left foot, really make it super active. And then the top of the right foot, just as active, maybe more so, and maybe so much so that the right knee can float for a moment. And then you set it back down, but keep that energy of the foot pressing down. Every shape, no matter how fancy, starts with the floor. So find that. Then if you'd like to take the twist, the left hand can come to the left thigh. You can also go up to the sky if you'd like that more. But feel those low ribs knitting together always. Look up. Inhaling. Exhale, let that go. Tuck the right toes, lift the right knee, step back to your downward facing dog. And then bend the knees quite a lot. Walk yourself forward to meet your hands. And let your feet be about as wide as your hips and just sort of drape yourself for a moment. Loop your peace fingers around your big toes. Your yogi toe lock. Elbows travel out to the left and right. If you have to bend your knees a lot, nothing wrong with it. There's no rule that says you can't bend your knees in yoga. And then, once you're here, start to find a gentle lifting of the kneecaps. So the back stays nice and long. This should feel good. So if you feel like you're straining or pressing into a stretch, see if you can just change that intention and make it that you're energizing and releasing into a stretch. And then maybe you pull on the big toes, guiding your chest further down, only if that feels good. Inhale. Exhale, release the bind, and then with soft knees, roll yourself up to stand, one vertebra at a time. Head and shoulders come up last. Maybe give those shoulders a roll out. Gathering your hands in prayer at heart center. Coming back to your breath, and maybe you offered an intention for your practice. Find your feet. They can be touching, that's fine, or they can be hip width if that feels better. There's not a rule here for this moment. I don't know if there's ever a rule. Grounding down through the four corners of the feet, activate them. So find the blade edges of the feet, especially pulling the mat apart, and then notice how that chain of command ripples up through your legs. A little lift of the kneecaps, spiraling together of the thighs, a gentle lifting up through the pelvic floor, and a little forward tilt of the front of the pelvis to drop the tailbone. Stacking the skeleton the best you can. Last week, the focus was on interoception, body awareness, building from the inside out. So just in your mind's eye, trace the stack of your bones, of your muscles, of your sinew. And recognize that each of us has a certain physiology that creates a range of motion, that creates our own expression of these shapes, which, as we talked about last week, is why there should not be mirrors in yoga studios, really. Because your alignment from the inside matters more than the shape. So breathe here. Then on your next inhale, keep all that activity in your lower body, but float the hands overhead and interlace the fingers. Keep the index fingers pointing straight up. Again, super active in the feet. Now let the arms lead as they start to travel back. Maybe they just get by your ears. Maybe they can travel past your ears, in which case your head starts to follow. And then maybe the hips go forward. Again, a little squeeze in the glutes might help here. Something that tends to happen in back bending is that we start just paying attention to the back rather than paying attention more to the legs and the heart, the things that frame that space. Inhaling, exhaling. Inhale, come up, separate the hands. Exhale, take a forward fold. Nice long flat back. Inhale, bringing your hands to your shins, lift the heart. Exhale, fold forward. We're not going back, we're just going to float back up. So press down through the feet, rise up as you inhale. Interlace the fingers again. This time, change the interlace so the other thumb is on top. Start from the feet, build this from the floor up. Active, active, active in the legs. Then maybe the arms travel back. Then maybe the hips go forward. The heart lifts. Maybe a squeeze of the glutes. More activity in the feet, feet, feet. Inhaling. Exhaling. Inhale, come back up, separate the hands. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale for your long flat back. Exhale, step the left foot back, coming to a runner's lunge. And then root down, rise up, high lunge. Every shape contains every other shape. So this contains a little bit of cow. It contains a little bit of bridge. Everything that's a little back bendy is here. And so are all of the warrior poses. So is chair pose. So is mountain pose. So feel that sensation as you hold something that's not necessarily easy, but shouldn't be crazy. More work in the legs, more work in the feet. Inhale. Exhale, bring your hands to frame the right foot. And then step the left foot forward to meet the right. Find your long flat back. And then fold. Inhale once more for a flat back. Step the right foot back as you exhale for your runner's lunge. Feel all this good length you're taking up. And then activate the feet first and float the arms up. We're here for about 5 breaths. More active in the right heel pressing back. We'll engage the right quadricep. More active in the left foot pressing forward and away will help plug the left femur into its hip socket. Maybe the arms travel back a bit. Maybe the head follows. Inhaling. Exhaling, one more round. Inhale. Exhale, hands frame that left foot, and now step back to your plank, top of a push-up. Inhale here, exhale, lower knees, chest and chin. Inhale, cobra pose. Exhale, child's pose. Take the knees nice and wide, send the hips to the heels, big toes touching. Actively reach the fingertips forward as you pull the hips back. Tailbone is yearning for those big toes. Release the head down if it feels good. And make this a nice active child's pose. So even though it's restful, you're still aware of those connections to the earth. You're still aware of that anchoring down to create space and lightness. Inhaling. Exhaling. Inhale, come back to all fours. And then just have a seat. So swing the legs around. Take them out long in front of you. Peeling the fleshy part of the glutes away from the sits bones. Make your legs super active here. So the feet, I would say flexed. And notice that engagement of the knees. So the hamstrings are pressing down. And you're making the best 90-degree angle that you can. And then float the arms overhead. Start to reach the heart forward. So the heart pulls forward, forward, forward. And then when you feel you've hit a stopping point, then soften the shoulders and relax the neck. It is that forward energy of the heart that matters. Try to keep the quadriceps engaged. And if you never touch your toes, that's fine. If you have tons of flexibility and your hands are draped over your feet or in a bind, that's also fine. But the only thing to which you are obligated is your breath. And that grounding down, gathering support from the surfaces beneath you. One more inhale. And exhale. And then slowly walk yourself up to sit. Bend your knees, plant your feet. And then take your hands right under your shoulders with the fingertips facing off the mat. We're just coming into a little bit of an altar pose here, so a different version of a back bend. Lifting the hips up. You can keep the chin tucked, but if you find that you can get your hips high enough that your knees are disappearing, then you can release the head back, only if it feels good on your neck. Again, a little squeeze of the glutes might feel nice here, but make it more about the hands and feet, trusting that everything else will follow. One more inhale. Exhale, set the hips down. Stay as you are, just cross the right ankle at the left knee. So still another little figure 4, but a little more intense than what we did before. You can rock that out a bit. You're more than welcome to stay exactly like this. But we're coming back into table or altar. If you feel comfortable with it, keep the ankle crossed at the knee. Otherwise, you can plant both feet. But if you're coming on one foot, then the left foot is planted down and you lift up the hips again. Same pose, it's just bringing a little balance and a little asymmetry into it. Inhaling. Exhale, lower everything down. Uncross the legs, maybe a little windshield wiper of the knees. And then cross the left ankle at the right knee. First finding our little figure 4 moment. Nice proud chest. If you have to lean back a little bit, that's okay. Again, we all have a sort of natural stopping point that for some of us, however much we practice and stretch and do all the things, we never really move beyond because that's just how our skeleton is built, or our muscles. And then coming back into stillness, press down through the right foot, lift the hips. Or if you need to, both feet on the mat. About 2 breaths. Soft jaw, inhale. Exhale, let all of that go. Lower down. Plant the feet, a little windshield wiper of the knees. And then coming down onto your back once more. Flex the feet towards the ceiling. Float the arms, taking our waterfall pose or Frankenstein or legs up a wall. If you want to go to a wall, you can. You can also turn this into a shoulder stand if you'd like. I'm not going to. I'm just going to hang out here. Make sure that the knees are soft, that the ankles are relaxed, the elbows are soft, the wrists are relaxed. Let your eyes be closed or heavy. And feel an awareness of the long bones of the legs just melting down into the hip space. The long bones of the arms melting down into the shoulder space. Reversing the blood flow, cooling the body and the mind. Before we move out of this pose, let your eyes open for just a moment. Take in this different perspective. Be curious about your hands and feet, what they look like. And then lower your hands down and set your feet down. Again, if it feels good, you can take a little windshield wiper. Coming into happy baby pose next. Bring the knees in towards the armpits. You can stay here. You can flex the feet towards the ceiling. You can interlace your peace fingers around your big toes if you'd like, or hold on to the ankles. Whatever you choose in terms of the bind is totally fine, but find a gentle energy of the feet traveling up and notice the length that gives you in the low back. So you're trying to lengthen that tailbone down, and then organically, that'll give you a little core stuff too. Maybe your baby rocks. And then release whatever binding you have. Bring the knees into the midline. Keep the right leg close and the left leg long. Coming into our supine twist, ending how we started. Taking the right arm out to the right. Be curious about anything that feels different here. Be curious about anything that feels the same. Maybe you expected some huge shift that did not happen, or maybe one happened without your realizing. Both shoulder blades easing onto the mat. Inhaling. Exhaling. Inhale, come back into center. Give that knee a hug. And then send the right leg long. Bring the left knee in. You can make little circles with it if you'd like. And then guide that shin across your body. Left arm goes out to the left. Maybe look over at the left hand. Put your attention, though, in that back space, and the shoulder blades melting down, and the heart pointing up. Inhale. Exhale. And then come back in. Send the left leg long. Shavasana. Or you can go back to Supta Baddha Konasana with soles of feet together if that feels better. Sometimes with low back stuff, it feels good. In that other shape, it feels a little better sometimes. You can also slide blocks under your knees, even if your legs are long. What matters here is stillness. Stillness of the body, which leads to stillness of the mind. Stillness of the mind that allows the body to be still. Allowing yourself to be heavier, recognizing that the more you let go, the more you will be supported. The more you surrender to the earth, the more the earth will rise to meet you. It's there and it's eager to help. Start to find a little life in your fingers and toes. Maybe a good morning stretch, reaching your fingertips towards the back wall, back of the mat, toe tips towards the front. And then walking your feet in one at a time, nothing rushed. And rolling onto your favorite side. Making your way to any comfortable seat. As you arrive, allowing your eyes to be heavy. Again, starting with the floor, awareness of your points of contact, awareness of that energy rising up through you. Gathering hands in prayer at heart center. We'll seal our time with one Om, joining a vibration that is already in progress. One round of breath first, inhaling fully. Exhaling deeply. Inhaling for Om. Bringing your thumbs to your forehead, bowing your chin towards your chest. The light that is in me bows to and honors the light that is in you. When I am in that space in me, and you are in that space in you, we are one. Namaste. If you enjoyed this, please be sure to like, share, and follow dailyflow.yoga.